Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Prime Minister of Lower Saxony, David McAllister.
Sehr verehrte Frau Bundeskanzlerin, liebe Angela,
Chancellor,
sehr geehrter Herr Premierminister Fillon, sehr geehrter Professor KEITEL,
Prime Minister Fillon, Professor KEITEL, ladies and gentlemen, ministers, undersecretaries of state, representatives from Germany and abroad, Lord Mayor Wahl, ladies and gentlemen. Very cordial welcome here to Hanover. Welcome to Lower Saxony. The Hanover Fair 2011 in the next 5 days will once more showcase the technological capabilities and innovative strengths of the entire world. These days, however, from the fairgrounds here in Hanover, we will look with a great deal of worry and concern to what's happening in Japan. Therefore, I'd like to explicitly welcome our Japanese friends who've come to Hanover against all the odds and in spite of all the obstacles. All in all, this year, we have 6,500 exhibitors from 65 nations on a footprint of 23 hectares. Hanover Fair is the leading fair for 13 sub-leading fairs, and this year again, it emphasizes its claim to be the leading presentation platform for innovative technologies and solutions. 120 economic policy delegations have announced their visit to the fair. The overall leading topic 2011 is smart efficiency. So it is about the utilization of materials and energy, going easy on the resources, optimized production processes, efficient management. So the Hanover Fair, the Messe, is once more very much in touch with the latest trends. A particular welcome is to be extended here to our French guests. The French Republic is this year's partner country of the fair. The French economy actually has sent 220 exhibitors. Innovation for sustainable growth is the motto here. Ladies and gentlemen, I should like to wish you a successful Fair 2011 and a pleasant stay here with us in Lower Saxony and the capital in Hanover.
Technology Prize of Hannover Messe. Ladies and gentlemen, the Director and CEO of the German Research Center for Artificial Intelligence, Professor Dr. Wolfgang Palster.
Chancellor Merkel, Prime Minister Fillon, Premiers, Minister SCHAVAN, Professor KEITEL, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the Hermes Award has become well established on an international level as an Academy Award for Engineers in its 8th round. There were 45 submissions, including 12 from abroad, 2 of which came from Austria and Slovenia, and made it this time into the group of the last 5 nominees. This year, the subject that is a unifying thread between all nominees is gentle technologies. For painting, they don't use high pressure. They have a gentle system that uses steam. Then for distance measurement, there is a mini sensor that does not use high energy lasers that are dangerous to the eye, but rather a very gentle laser class 1. And robots are converted to have an active contact flange for gentle surface treatment to act like a human hand that processes a workpiece with gentle pressure. Innovations like this, ladies and gentlemen, link together environmental advantages with economic market potential. How to be successful as a production location in a high-wage region is becoming a key question in global competition. That means we have to be in shape for the 4th industrial revolution that is being driven by the Internet. The Internet of Things is creating a bridge, like we're going to see, between the virtual and the real world. In industry, this approach is leading to a paradigm shift. It is the product being created itself that controls the production process and uses embedded sensors to monitor the relevant environmental parameters, and if there are any disturbances in production, it takes remedial action. So it's at one at the same time an observer and a player. In the communication promoter group of the Research Union of Business and Science from the German federal government, our minister, Professor SCHAVAN, proposed a project for the future called Industry 4.0. This project for the future has been approved and implementation has already begun by the fields of business, science, and politics. And the nominees are making a contribution to this innovation. The Hermes Award is one of the most renowned industrial awards worldwide. It is like an Olympic gold medal, and it motivates engineers to achieve further excellence. It provides them with the recognition they've earned amongst colleagues, and above all, it brings them new customers, success with customers, and thus, what's most important, success in business. So it's like at the Academy Awards, because in the next few minutes, things are going to get quite exciting. There can only be one winner, but nevertheless, we can say all nominees have been excellent. Now, I would like to show you some brief video clips to introduce to you the 5 nominees.
Fair Robotics Compliant Robot Technology. Active Contact Flange. The active contact flange has revolutionized the automation industry with its sensitivity. The innovative adapter element gives every standard robot a sense of touch and can be individually deployed across industries. In this way, the most sensitive hand operations can be carried out and economically automated by robots. Second nominee, Krautsberger. Steam spraying technology. The homogeneous and gentle coating with steam leads to lower bounce back and thus to materials saving up to 25%. Noticeably shorter drying times, reduced waiting times between coat and drying, the minimization of buffer zones as well as the reduction of exposure for the operator and cleaning effort are decisive advantages for the new steam spraying technology. Third nominee, Omega Air. Electronic pressure gauge. This innovation is a differential pressure gauge with an innovatively designed pressure sensor. The goal was to achieve accurate detection of pressure drop in a compressed gas filter by a sensor with such a low energy consumption that it can be powered by an internal battery. The heart of the sensor is a ferromagnetic fluid, which becomes strongly magnetized in the presence of a magnetic field and follows the moving magnet. By implementing a new sensor, up to 10% of energy on compressed gas systems can be saved. Fourth nominee, Tailor looks. Tailor Safe Anti-Counterfeit System. The anti-counterfeit system Tailor Safe separates originals from fakes. To do so, luminescent pigments are integrated into the product. Every luminescent pigment creates its own light spectrum. This can be recognized with simple light sources. With hand measuring devices as small as a cell phone. As all the pigments are non-toxic, they can also be used for pharmaceuticals, for which an anti-counterfeit protection is as important as for aircraft parts, for example. Fifth nominee, Wengler Sensoric Transit Time Sensor. The Wengler Transit Time Sensor with WinTech technology handles optical recognition tasks that were previously unsolvable. It not only measures distances with high accuracy, but also suppresses all sources of interference. The interference-free technology and a complex software algorithm allow the recognition of materials otherwise scarcely detectable. The WinTech Transit Time Sensor is also the smallest of its type in the world. It is suitable for use in all industries and sets new standards for functional reliability, effectiveness and efficiency.
Ladies and gentlemen, now of course you're going to be wondering which of the 5 nominees is the winner. Let's review these 5 different nominees. Because actually all 5 nominees did indeed deserve this award. Who is the winner? The winner is Krautsberger from the German state of Hesse with its innovative steam spray technology. Congratulations on your victory in the Hermes Award 2011. I would now like to ask you, Minister SCHAVAN, to come up on stage to give a speech about the award winner. Chancellor Merkel, Prime Minister Fillon, Premier McAllister, Mr. KEITEL, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. One of the most remarkable decisions amongst companies in Germany in difficult economic times was and is the systematic investment in research and development. This is illustrated in particular by the analyses, including international analyses, that have been done about 2009 and 2010. And this is true in particular about the wide variety of small and medium-sized companies that have a high potential for innovation. This includes, amongst others, Krautsberger GmbH. It is an outstanding example of a medium-sized technology company which, despite all economic hard times, has still continued with its good ideas, discipline, the right feeling, and entrepreneurship to stay the course, and is now being awarded a prize for a technology which is highly promising and unique. Krautsberger GmbH. The jury this year selected this company, and it is a family company with a long tradition from Eltville on the Rhine. It is a company that has a history of more than 100 years. It is a company that develops, produces, and sells machines and equipment for coating surfaces by means of spraying technology, and it's a company that has 50 employees. Even in the crisis, Krautsberger GmbH was doing research on a new and highly innovative steam spray technology, and it's already been mentioned. It is all about technologies that save resources. For instance, the amount of material required goes down by up to 25%, and the amount of energy required in the process is reduced by up to 50%. As an atomizing medium, the system uses steam, and this is unique in the entire world. In coating, in painting, and in enameling, the particles are applied in a much more homogeneous fashion, which improves quality considerably. This is what innovations are all about. That is, top-notch ideas to be better than the competition. And this also increasingly conveys the idea that with new state-of-the-art technologies, a gentle and more intelligent use of resources and energy in particular is indeed possible. These product innovations and process innovations were quite persuading to the jury, but in addition to that, the economic prospects of the company have improved substantially thanks to the new and innovative steam spray process. Ladies and gentlemen, ideas, innovation, and growth. This is the goal and the motto of our high-tech strategy for Germany. It's a motto that also applies to Krautsberger GmbH. You take pioneering ideas and translate them into marketable products. That offers a huge opportunity. That is to maintain our innovation edge and make sure that it stays that way in the future. And that is why we in the government, when we talk about the focal points of research and innovation policy, that is why we focus on innovative product ideas from small and medium-sized companies. I think that the jury's decision is a pioneering decision. I'd like to congratulate Krautsberger GmbH on the 2011 Hermes Award, and I'd like to ask the representatives of the company to come up on stage now. I, too, would like to ask Premier McAllister and Dr. von Fritsch, the head of Deutsche Messe, to come up on stage because they are going to congratulate the winners as well. Now we'd like to offer the press representatives an opportunity to come up and take a picture. The winner ought to perhaps hold the Hermes Award. Let's go over here a little bit. Okay. We also wanted to ask you a question, Mr. Weidmann, you the winners. What do you think are the biggest application opportunities for this new process? Well, the biggest problem is that we want to survive the next week because I hope that we're going to have a lot of people coming to see us at the fair. Well, of course, we've got to drive forward with innovation. We've got to translate it into actual practice, and we want to take advantage of the tailwind this offers in order to move into as many different industries as possible with this innovation. Okay, I'd like to thank everyone here who was involved in the award ceremony. Thank you once again very much, and I wish you all the best.
President of the BDI, Federation of German Industries, Professor Dr. Hans-Peter KEITEL.
Sehr verehrte Frau Bundeskanzlerin,
Chancellor Merkel, Monsieur le Premier Ministre, Premier McAllister, Minister SCHAVAN, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we've just been shown 5 very impressive examples of what the Hanover Fair can do, and also of the fact that this year again it's a unique demonstration showcasing industrial strength, showcasing industrial know-how. And it is exactly this know-how that secures and guarantees our prosperity. And let me just mention this at this point. It is prosperity that enables us to distribute amongst different groups and have people participate in our society in all areas. This has led us out of the crisis. 3.6% growth in 2010. Our position is excellent, really. 3/4 of this growth stemmed from industry and industry-related services, something that this trade fair focuses on. Let us not forget that politics, by way of consistent and quick decisions, has really helped here. And of course, we also need to mention the labor force who went along with this. Getting out of the crisis quickly really was a success due to a joint effort. We've mastered the crisis well, and there is even more. In the crisis, we did not just talk, but we did act. Businessmen and entrepreneurs do not expect gratitude because it's in the interest of everybody to act that way. However, we should be aware of one thing time and again, and this applies to all of us. This upswing, this recovery, has been the result of hard work. This recovery, this success, has really opened up the latitude and the scope for us that we need to master and cope with the major problems in Europe and all over the world. But we also need to be aware of the fact that the degree of economic business is very much dependent on a joint effort, and we really have a walk on a tightrope this way. This tightrope situation has been demonstrated by the latest developments in the catastrophe in Japan. It was only 4 or 6 weeks ago that we warned against too much euphoria, and justly so. I do not want to address all of the conflicts in this world. However, let me talk about Japan and Europe at this point. After this major catastrophe, the disaster of the century, we can say probably, it is time to pause and think, to mourn with our friends in Japan, but also again to pause and think what this all means for our relationship to engineering and risk, technology and risk. We've had this moratorium adopted by the federal government. They acted quickly and we decided to support them. However, we need some sustainable decisions, and we actually request and ask for this to be a joint effort on the basis of facts and not short-term emotions. We must not gamble away in weeks what we have achieved in years of coping with crises. And if this moratorium is to be taken seriously, then we cannot and we must not know or determine right away what is going to happen. Germany is an industrialized country, and this is something that we must not forget and always consider. There is this little bit of pride that accompanies us everywhere, and it's also a moving factor here at the Hanover Fair. We must be very careful that when discussing nuclear energy, that we do not endanger our economic success and the economic basis. Electricity in Germany must remain safe, clean and affordable. Nuclear power no longer than necessary. Abandoning or phasing out nuclear energy as early as possible. This is correct, but there is more to it. It is not sufficient just to present this as a statement every day. There's much more that's necessary. We need to know and say what we are going to have afterwards. And we really have to see what we will have to pay, and not just in monetary terms. We need courage to do that, a lot of courage. However, I should like to encourage everybody, also on behalf of the industry, because we know how to cope with these requirements if and when we have a sound foundation and basis here, because after all, German industry is the market leader worldwide when it comes to sustaining and sustainable technologies. The visit from our French friends makes very clear that this is not a national matter. It is at least a European issue. Of course we want to know and need to know how you feel about nuclear energy. And therefore, German industry supports the European stress test demanded by Commissioner Oettinger, the stress test for nuclear power plants. And we think that France certainly wants to have a say in this, and also a say when Germany really relies on imported nuclear power and electricity. Norway and Switzerland are also important when it comes to storing the wind energy here. We've got citizens' action groups demonstrating against pump storage plants in the Black Forest. Germany and Europe and the debt crisis and the package to deal with the debt crisis in Europe. This is a decisive phase that we find ourselves in. The agreement of March 11 are some first step in the right direction. All of Europe must become more competitive. So the successful ones ought to be the benchmark, not the average. We have to focus on the consolidation of public budgets, and therefore the sharpening of the Stability and Growth Pact is correct. But we need some further steps in this direction, and of course we need consistent implementation of what's been decided. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you are going to bear with me when I don't repeat everything that we've already heard in the past weeks on the topic of the euro. There's something else that I should like to say here, and that is how German and French industry together try to fight for the rightful position of France and Germany in the global economy. Japan also needs to be mentioned here, the catastrophe there. And it's not just the impact on our supply chains, but Japan, as a classic industrial country, and we should consider together whether there are some better joint instruments vis-à-vis the larger economic powers like the United States and also the emerging economies' interests that really make us support and help Japan in its reconstructive effort. Madam Chancellor, Prime Minister, German industry and our partner association, MEDEF, we enjoy an excellent relationship. Laurence Parisson, my colleague, now we have a very friendly relationship in spite of all differences, and for years we've had the Evian Dialogue, a meeting place for German and French companies. We're going to meet again this week in Paris with the economic associations of the G8 countries, among other things to prepare the G20 meeting in November in Paris. A successful process, as some members of our association have also noticed already. Premier, please tell MEDEF in Paris that we actually do everything in our power in order to prepare for a successful economic summit at the end of the year. After Paris, I'll go to Cairo, right after my visit to Paris, to discuss matters with our French and English friends, suggesting assistance to an integration process, because for us, of course, it's a matter of course That's different from politics, of course, that we meet old friends again there. There are quite a few jobs to be done and problems to be solved, but this fair shows that our industry has got the solutions. We've got new technologies, we've got innovations for the markets of tomorrow. That alone, however, will not be enough. We need something else. Investment. Investment right here in our country. And this brings me to the most important topic for this fair on behalf of our association. We have to invest. We have to invest in Germany. We have to create the general conditions in such a way that Germany becomes an attractive location for investments once more. The investment agenda, and you are the first ones who are going to see it tonight, the investment agenda really offers a major contribution to this. Right on time for all the discussions to take place in the coming weeks. Investing into the future, that's one of the guarantors for our social market economy, of growth that really supports our society in its integration. It is worth it to invest in Germany. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in welcoming the official partner country of Hannover Messe 2011, the French Republic. It is our pleasure to present the French ensemble Les Percussions Clavier de Lyon. 5 demanding musicians who share a passion for keyboard percussion. They will play an adaptation of Fête by Claude Debussy. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome His Excellency the Prime Minister of the French Republic, Francois Fillon.
Madam Chancellor, dear Angela, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor for France to be this year's partner at the world's biggest technology fair, and I am particularly proud that our country is represented by state-of-the-art companies and research laboratories. Chancellor Merkel, this pride is combined with the honor that I feel being next to you to express to you the admiration and the friendship that I feel for you and your country. This year, Hanover Fair has welcomed the biggest number of exhibitors in 10 years. This record has brought a thought to my mind. People who thought that globalization was going to lead to a decline of the European continent are wrong. Of course, our strength, our power that we had in the past is no longer indisputable. And of course, competition from emerging economies is formidable and it requires a burst of competitiveness from us. But in the future, the conditions for progress will still be called innovation, education, the professional quality of employees, and a social and democratic consensus. Now, all of these conditions are uniquely and powerfully combined in Europe, and that is why I believe that the 21st century will be much more European than people have claimed. And it will be all the more European because Europe has a major characteristic of getting stronger when put to the test. The 20th century concluded on a happy event, the end of the Soviet Empire, the reunification of Germany, the liberation of the peoples of the East. The new century is dawning with events that are just as significant. A global financial crisis which is shaking the very foundations of capitalism and to which we are still responding. A revolutionary wave that is washing over the Arab world, proclaiming its aspiration to liberty and freedom and respect for human rights. And finally, the terrible disaster that has recently hit Japan, with tens of thousands of people perished or missing and hundreds of thousands of people now homeless. These natural disasters have triggered a disaster in the disaster, that is, a nuclear catastrophe which has shaken some of our certainties and also our confidence in our technological abilities. And I'd like to reiterate here in Hanover the extent to which France feels solidarity to the Japanese people, how we are at the side of this courageous people, this dignified people, this creative people, which I am sure will be able to get back up and move forward again. All of these events are challenges to Europe, and they require us to join forces. Unlike the every man for himself, which was typical of the crisis in 1929, the leaders of the biggest economies in the world were able to respond to the crisis in 2008 by coordinating their policies, by creating new authorities for global governments. In numerous countries, the recession was deep, but it did not extend beyond 2009. In 2011, forecast growth is close to 4.5% on a global level and 2% on a European level. In view of the sovereign debt crisis in Europe, we have showed that those people were wrong who bet on a division of Europe, and they also bet that Europe would break up. We proved them wrong. The French-German partners once again demonstrated their ability to overcome their differences and act in the interest of all. Under their leadership, the member states of the European Union and those in the Eurozone set up crucial contingency mechanisms. In 1 year, we have adopted a permanent system for crisis management and improved economic governance. A European Financial Stability Fund was set up from scratch in the Eurozone, and in 2013 it will give way to a permanent stability mechanism. This mechanism, of course, will only be triggered in the framework of very demanding conditions for countries receiving the aid. These will be conditions that also ensure that European taxpayers will be protected. We have also just adopted our Pact for the Euro. This calls for commitment from countries to all the aspects of competitiveness, that is, labor cost, competition, education and training, research and innovation, the labor market, safeguarding our pension systems and social welfare systems, stabilizing public finances, and even coordination of tax systems. Right now, we are preparing stringent rules to reinforce budgetary oversight, control of public debt, and the monitoring of macroeconomic imbalances. In a nutshell, the European Union and the states in the Eurozone will in the future be better organized to resist the threats facing them, and they'll be better organized to create the conditions for strong and lasting European growth. These results are to a great extent the fruit of German-French understanding, which is more necessary than ever before. We are the engines of Europe. And when we bring together our forces, it is the entire European Union that moves forward. But these two forces, and it's in both of their interests, each has a unique aspect. On the one hand, you have Germany that has contributed to moving forward in Europe with a culture of stability and sound government finances. It was necessary because laxity is the enemy of growth. My government has taken responsibility for this budgetary discipline. We have frozen government expenditures for the next 3 years. Since 2007, we have stopped replacing government workers when they leave. We also have committed to reducing by 10% in 3 years our operating resources for our administration, 5% this year. We have frozen all transfers to local and regional governments, and this is the first time it's ever happened recently in our country. In June, the French Parliament will debate constitutional reform on the global or overall balancing of our public finances. If Germany, on the one hand, contributed to re-establishing in Europe more responsibility, financial responsibility. On the other hand, France has always been in favor of greater coordination, closer coordination between the economies, in particular in the Eurozone. And I'm pleased to say that your country too shares our opinion about how imperative this is. More economic rigor, more political coordination, also more competitiveness. This is the course that the European Union must set. France has made innovation one of the strategic pillars of its competitiveness. We have developed 71 clusters of excellence that promote networking and collaboration between big companies, SMEs, and research laboratories. We've tripled the tax credit for research projects. Foreign investors in France have applauded this because it reduces by 30% their R&D expenses, and France is now the first #1 country in Europe for the establishment of research centers. And finally, we've launched an exceptional program for investments for the future that earmarks 35 billion euros to the knowledge economy. Universities, research, industry, and new technologies, digital technologies, biotechnologies, sustainable development, these will be the great beneficiaries of this, including contributions from companies. We are going to summon up 65 billion euros for these investments in the future. This strategy for innovation is to be seen in the framework of overall reform. It's a reform movement that our country hasn't seen in a long time. Reform of universities. And in the future, they will have greater autonomy. Their finances have been strengthened considerably. Then, pension reform with the increase of the legal minimum for retirement for up to 62 years and 67 for retirement with full benefits. Then, reform of labor law so that companies can adjust their production without being penalized by legally stipulated duration of work. Then reform of tax system with the elimination of professional tax, which was a burden on companies' ability to invest. This is finally a reform for sustainable development. France has clearly turned the corner toward green growth. Measures have been taken and passed that promote alternatives to road transport and reduce energy consumption in buildings. For our field of renewable energies, we have set about making up for our delay compared to Germany. Development in wind and solar power is spectacular and will allow us to achieve in 2012 the objectives we set for 2020. We have considerably increased our efforts in research in the fields of future environmental technologies. It is difficult to talk about sustainable development without, once again, evoking the disaster in Fukushima. We all have a job to draw the necessary lessons. The Council of Europe has decided to subject all nuclear power plants to stringent, transparent, and verifiable stress tests. In Brussels, Germany and France took up the same position in this regard. These tests must be conducted by independent national authorities with peer review, with total transparency for the general public, and the first results will be at the end of 2011. In France, I asked the French Nuclear Safety Authority to conduct an audit on all the nuclear power plants in my country. We are going to verify the ability of our nuclear power plants to resist earthquakes that are comparable to the one in Japan, resist flooding, like the flooding following the tsunami, and also a breakdown of all supply and cooling systems. In other words, I'm saying that the government will, without any hesitation, accept all the consequences. The power plants that will have to be modified will be modified, and if certain ones have to be shut down, they will be. On an international level, President Sarkozy announced that in May in Paris we are going to be organizing a meeting of nuclear safety authorities in the G20 countries. That'll be a G20 meeting there, because we believe it's necessary to define international standards that are much more demanding in this field of nuclear safety. Ladies and gentlemen, the message that French participants here at the Hanover Fair are bringing you is the message of a France that is going through reform, a France that is innovative, a France that exports. And it's also the message from a country whose industrial ambitions are still intact. Ambitions in the fields of transport, robotics, computing, biotechnologies. Industry represents 3/4 of French exports of goods and services. In 2010, our trade with Germany reached a level of 142 billion euros. More than 2,200 French companies are established in Germany, and 3,000 German companies are established in France. It is our regions, our cities, and our companies that cooperate in these fields of excellence. Take, for example, electric and hybrid vehicles that will be tested between Strasbourg, Stuttgart, and Karlsruhe. Since the cross-border project was kicked off 1 year ago by the French-German Council of Ministers, numerous initiatives have been taken, and companies have added an industrial partnership that will have repercussions that are both economic and social in our two countries. In the field of nanotechnologies, one example is cooperation between the cities of Grenoble and Dresden that will allow us to develop semiconductors that are environmentally friendly. Together, France and Germany account for 10% of global research. This figure alone bears witness to our immense potential. I'm talking about potential because it's always possible to do more. If we are able to better combine our efforts, in particular the efforts of our major research centers such as the CNRS in France or the Max Planck Institutes in Germany, it is important that we better connect the abilities of our clusters of excellence. For 3 years now, there have been joint calls for bids put out by the Carnot Institute in France and the Fraunhofer Institute in Germany to allow our researchers to work together on common research projects. Thanks to our partnerships, major projects are being created. This is, for instance, the case with the French-German satellite that's called Merlin, that will allow us to measure methane in the atmosphere, which is one of the substances responsible for the greenhouse effect. Environment, resources, health, food, energy, these major challenges of our century will not, ladies and gentlemen, be able to have a permanent and unchanging solution, and there will be no sustainable solution without a political will to achieve it. The entire history of Europe is based on the idea of progress. Faith in the ability of humankind to improve their lot by virtue of their minds, science, growth, and the collaboration between nations, and this must not weaken. In order to take up the challenges of the future, we will have to have the courage of policymakers, we will need the optimism of entrepreneurs, and we will also need the tenacity of researchers. Chancellor Merkel, I would like to express the wish that the meetings that will be established at this fair might be the occasion to establish a new basis for cooperation, and I also hope that they will allow our companies to continue to be bold and creative. Vive la France, vive l'Allemagne.
ladies and gentlemen, the Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany, Dr. Angela Merkel.
Ladies and gentlemen, Prime Minister, François Fillon, Premier, dear David McAllister, Professor KEITEL, dear colleague Annette SCHAVAN, ladies and gentlemen, Lord Mayor, of course. I really insisted on coming this year to Hanover, at least. Last year, unfortunately, this volcano made it impossible. This year, however, because of my small defect on my leg, I can't really walk around the fair. So it's the second year without being fully here, but taken together, it's a full visit. I opened the fair today, and I had the visiting tour last year. I promised to mend my ways. However, it's been very important for me, and something that's been close to my heart, to come here to Hanover, the largest industrial fair of the world, particularly because this HANNOVER MESSE fair happens at a time where we all look at Japan with a great deal of sympathy. We do know that the earthquake and the tsunami have devastated large areas of the country. Thousands of people lost their lives. Thousands are still missing today. And on top of this, we've got the nuclear threat around the nuclear power station Fukushima. People had to leave their homes. Task forces are risking their lives in and around the nuclear power plants. These very dramatic events are particularly moving for us because they have happened and are happening in a high-technology country like Japan, demonstrating something, which is that things that seem to be practically impossible on the basis of scientific findings are possible after all. Fukushima has really lent a completely new significance to the term residual risk. It was taken to be calculable and controllable, but now it signifies real danger. Countries that are not directly affected by the disaster must not ignore this. We know that in Germany we will probably not have similar natural disasters like the one in Japan. Our nuclear power plants, let me emphasize this here again, are amongst the safest of the world, but I'm very grateful that we've heard this also from France. We must not go back to business as usual right away. The country, Japan, is a highly developed industrial nation, but they couldn't prevent the nuclear threat as a consequence of a natural disaster. That's the reality in Japan, and this means that we in Germany and everybody in the world is faced with completely new questions. Mr. KEITEL, I should like to thank you for your words on the moratorium that we announced, and not just speaking out in favor of it, but also supporting it. All plans will be scrutinized and checked for their safety in a comprehensive and detailed way. We've asked the Reactor Safety Commission to develop a program for this on short notice, and for the time of this scrutiny, the power stations that actually went into operation before 1980 were taken off the grid. On top of this, we've convened an ethics commission for secure energy supply. The kick-off meeting will happen tomorrow, the Federal Chancellery, and this is just to show that we don't have answers to everything right away. After the 3-month moratorium, ladies and gentlemen, of course we will have to take a decision on the consequences, and until then we have to evaluate the risk or analyze how the risks are to be evaluated and assessed, but we also have to discuss the transition into the era of renewable energies, however, with a proper sense of proportion. Safety is very important, but there is also the question of energy supply in Germany. Energy supply in Germany must be reliable and also affordable, and we must not get a situation that we really have to offset the energy supply and being a preferred industrial location against each other. However, if we want to really enter into this era of renewable energies, we need courage to think in a different way. And I should like to invite everybody, also German industry, to support this. And I also invite all of the citizens, because those in favor of renewable energies must also be in favor of the infrastructures necessary for them. One is not possible without the other, and we must be willing to really change our ways. And that applies to everybody. Just to be opposed to things, of course, is not sufficient. This will not make it possible for us to start the era of new and renewable energies. Nuclear risks have no limits and no borders, and therefore it's been a very important experience for us in the European Council, supported mainly by France and Germany, to check and look into and examine the safety of all reactors in the European Union. The European Council has commissioned experts to do stress tests. The Commission has done this. There will be expert opinions issued and published. And I'm also very grateful to the French President Sarkozy that this will also be made into an initiative of the G20, and that France will actually support the meeting of the Ministers of Energy. Ladies and gentlemen, the era of renewable energies, this is something that's always been important, or at least for years here at the Hanover Fair. Energy efficiency, renewable energies, and this is what the Hermes Award has also shown, are everyday business at the Hanover Fair, and therefore I think it's a very good thing that the exhibitors here have increased by a factor of 10, exhibitors from this particular area of the industry. France is particularly important when it comes to energy and mobility, and therefore I'm particularly happy to have France here as the guest and partner country of this year's Hanover Fair. And dear François Fillon, dear Prime Minister, I should like to welcome you very cordially. I'm happy that you're here today and that you'll also join us for the walking tour of the fair. I should also like to welcome your colleagues from the Cabinet, because German-French cooperation is not just a matter of reason, but also a matter that's close to our hearts, all of our hearts. And that's something that I should like to emphasize here again. For many years now, France has sent the largest group of exhibitors to Hanover Fair. We've got 230 French companies represented this year. And, of course, French industry plays an outstanding role in Germany. Mr. KEITEL mentioned all the different types of cooperation that we've enjoyed all along. And I think there's even the possibility to reinforce this and become stronger together. Tonight there will be ample opportunity to discuss this with the representatives of business and industry. We do share joint convictions. Industry and our industries are a source of important innovations and will also stay the source. It actually creates jobs for the future, and education and research are really the most important factor for shaping the future. Cooperation in education and research, cooperation between France and Germany has really been reinforced. The minister councils, or the councils of ministers, have looked into this for quite some time now. something that will have to be reinforced, however, even further. Concerning patent applications, Germany is amongst the top group here internationally, and research is particularly important in our country. The 3% target, this is something that we want to achieve. In the crisis, German business and industry kept committing themselves to this target, and I do believe that Germany and France should cooperate even more in view of the fact that research and innovation really are an important factor for our future. We need to be a role model for cooperation in Europe. If you look at the Lisbon strategy, started a few years ago with the objective that all of the member states of the European Union ought to spend 3% of their gross national or domestic product on research and education. Well, Germany and France can serve as a role model because many others are still far away from that. Ladies and gentlemen, we started an innovation dialogue here in Germany, combining the partners of innovation, offering advice and consultancy services to the federal government. Next Thursday we are going to meet again, and I do believe that the already successful cooperation with business and industry will be strengthened even more through founders' funds and cooperation with small and medium-sized businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, this is only possible, of course, when we strengthen Europe as a whole. And therefore, let me say once more, Germany and France just last year did a lot for our common currency, providing it with a stable future so that we can enjoy the advantages of the euro together. However, not taking everything just with an average value, but creating a joint package furthering European competitiveness. So now we've got the Euro Plus Pact with 6 countries that are not part of the Eurozone, and this pact's been a very important step forward, something that wouldn't have been possible without French-German cooperation. We were able to convince others to cooperate for more competitiveness, to coordinate policies and actually discuss this annually at the level of heads of state and government, entering into firm commitments. That's a decisive step forward in view of European cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, the doubts expressed by the financial markets have been counteracted by us politically. However, political resolutions alone are not enough. Our economies and our industry must remain competitive. Our budgets need to be stable, and therefore it is very positive that both Germany and France have been furthering the culture of stability at a time where there was a crisis around the euro. We in Germany, with our reduction and break on further debt incurred, this has really also been an important step there. In view of a world that develops rapidly and quickly, we have to react accordingly. The competitive pact is not oriented on the average of Europe and not just on the best of Europe, but we also always look at our strategic partners, the emerging countries and the growing new industrialized countries like China and India, and of course also our transatlantic partners, China and Japan. The club of the 27 of Europe must not isolate themselves. We have to broaden our horizons and not be parochial. So we also must be aware of our responsibility vis-à-vis future generations. Europe is a shared risk community, but also a shared responsibility community, a continent that is going to keep demonstrating that there is a great deal of capacity and capability. And there is no better forum to do that than this HANNOVER MESSE, the fair, a business and economic barometer making clear every year where we stand. And even in the weaker past years, there were lots of companies that joined and showed their strength. So I'd like to thank them, but I should also like to thank those that joined for the first time this year. 6,500 companies from 65 countries. That's a global show of international competence and technological competence. The fair really will live up to its name, Industria. Industria is Latin for industriousness. And I'm absolutely sure that this is exactly what we're going to see in the next few days. Industriousness. Results achieved through industriousness. Hope for the future and courage to open up new horizons. This is the motto of this year's fair. I should like to welcome you most cordially, our French friends, first and foremost, as exhibitors, and everybody from politics and industry, everybody who's come here to Hanover. Let it be a successful fair. So, a lot of success to all the exhibitors, and I can now say Hanover Fair 2011 is opened.
Ladies and gentlemen, as today's festivities draw to a close, our partner country will now delight us once again with music by the fabulous French ensemble Les Percussions Clavier de Lyon. Join them as they play Bach, a piece by Gérard Leconte, which is inspired by Johann Sebastian Bach.